The tragic loss of your friend Gino.
It's not something that anyone really knows how to deal with. Sort of questioning why I was doing what I was doing. I kind of had very little motivation. When you go, what am I doing? Like, why? You know, what's the? It basically just puts everything into perspective. And I really, that was, one of the hardest weeks of my life.
Fred Wright, welcome back to the Roadman Podcast.
Hello. Yes, good to be back talking.
People are going to be listening thinking, Fred's down the south of France. He's living the life. He's just stepped out of his Bentley. Fred just removed a sheet from hanging behind on his door.
Yeah, I'm happy living a normal life alongside cycling. I'm not so keen for the glamour and all that stuff. I just live up north in Manchester, and I do hang up my sheets like everyone else.
Sheets got to dry.
They do have to dry somewhere, and door frames are often the best place.
So you living on your own, or who are you living with?
I'm living on my own at the moment, but I've got an old friend I was on the British Cycling Academy with, who's going to come and move in just towards the end of this month. Just basically, so I've got someone to look after the house when I'm away for half of the year, as it is as a pro cyclist. So it should be good.
What do you like I had a military guy on the podcast a while ago, Special Forces, and he gave me this cool term, so I use it for everything now. He calls it admin. So admin's all the stuff in the military they do that's not war. So it's like making sure your gun is clean, getting your food ready, making sure your uniform is pressed. So I'm like, that's a cool term. I'm going to use that in cycling. What's your admin like?
My admin, that's a good way of thinking of it, because I feel like everything that I do that isn't riding my bike is admin. Whether it's racing or training, I feel like once I've done the training part, it's like, right, now let's put a wash on, now let's do a podcast, now let's make some dinner, it's all it feels like my whole life is admin, I guess. But it's not.
You could take that expression and bring it to the World Tour. That's my gift to you.
No, I think it's a good one. It's a good one. You got to be careful though, because I'll say that to like my girlfriend who works a normal job. Say, oh yeah, I've got loads of admin to do, and she'll be like, "Shut up! All you've got to do is, I don't know, put a wash on." And, it's not the same level of admin as like a normal job, but. Yeah,
but it's hard to do that stuff when you're a cyclist. I remember when I was full time living in France, and I used to take Monday off. I still take Monday off the bike. I don't know why, but I like have the whole day to do. Like, I got absolutely nothing to do for the whole day. All I'd have to do is like one wash, and I just couldn't get it done. And then I heard the expression, "If you want something done, ask a busy man." And I was like, that's a good expression. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think as well. I think like in off season, you almost like regain your energy, and you sort of forget that actually when you're training, you kind of sap that energy to do things like that. You kind of end up, all you want to do when you've got back from a long training ride, maybe in the cold weather or whatever, is just nothing for a couple of hours. And you get that kind of like sense of, you get more of a sense of fatigue, and I think you go through off season and almost forget about that fatigue. And then I've sort of got into training the past week or so and been like, oh yeah, it's actually getting yourself to do other things is more difficult. And I don't necessarily think that's being lazy. I think that's just, you're fatigued from training. It does take a lot out of you just to ride your bike every day. So yeah.
What's your threshold? And I don't mean that by your power number. I mean your threshold for the amount of training you like. If I do over 3 hours in a day, my days are right off. Like I'm doom scrolling on Instagram for the rest of the day and I can't do anything. If I do 2.5 hours, for some reason, I'm still kind of productive for the rest of the day. But anything more than 3, the day is pointless. It's ruined.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good. Yeah, that's around that, like 3.5. 3.5 is when it starts. Depending on how early you leave in the morning, it starts getting a bit difficult to do other things. Like this first couple of weeks training that I do, the past 2 years or so has been, I'm not getting loads of hours in. It's almost like an ease back into riding. So I'm max doing 3 hour rides. Most of the time it's like 2 hours. So actually I quite like this time of year because you have more time to do. You have more time and energy to do those things and kind of live normally. It's almost like an extension of off season. You kind of get to enjoy riding your bike, but not that much yet that it's a massive chore. Like the 25, 30 hour weeks aren't hitting yet, so it's quite a nice period.
It's disappointing though. I thought your threshold would go up when you're World Tour. I thought you'd be like, no, I can do 6 hours and still be productive. I thought it was just because I'm shit.
It goes up. Maybe I think 4 hours is often I can do, but 5 hours. Yeah, 5 hours. You can't. I mean, you walk to the shops and that's enough. So it's kind of But I think I think you just have to accept it. You just become more of a. You are quite a fairly useless human when you're a pro cyclist, but it means you're an amazing bike rider. The sacrifice is you become a better bike rider. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, you see, I don't have that part though. I'm just a useless human where I don't get the good bike rider part.
No, but you still get that sense of, it's like every day when if you keep riding consistently for a month, you notice how much better you feel on the bike. And I think everyone can access that. Everyone can kind of, but you have to, weigh up. I am also going to not be able to do other things in my life if I just train full gas all the time.
Last time we chatted, we started talking, and as soon as we started talking, the video went dead. So the video still recorded, but it went dead. So I couldn't see you. And I'd only ever previously seen you before in your cycling kit with helmet on, glasses on, and everyone kind of looks the same. You can't tell who anyone is. So fast forward to Roller, and we're in the nightclub, and this dude comes up talking to me, and I have no idea who it is. And I'm like, the first 60 seconds, I'm like, who is this dude? And there's another lad there, Rory Townsend, a cyclist as well. And I'm like, have you any idea who this lad is? And he's like, how pissed are you? And I was like, I'm pretty pissed, but I actually don't know. I've never met this guy. And he's like, that's Fred Wright. And I was like, oh, balls. I only talked to him like 2 days ago.
We literally just
I want to apologize for that right now.
Oh, that was so funny. Yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's good. I prefer to have things like that rather than the other way around when you've got someone coming up to you and going, oh, like, do you know what I mean? It's humbling, It's like a humbling experience. I was humbled. You humbled me. You spend the whole kind of time of rouleur thinking, oh yeah, everyone knows who I am. I'm a pro cyclist, like la 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 la. And then you go up to some guy that you think will know you at a nightclub and he shuts you down. It's good. It keeps you level.
I'm glad I could pay a public service for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that happen to you much? Do you get I wrestle with this one. Obviously, I have a tiny amount of fame from the podcast compared to what you must have, but I wrestle where I obviously need people to tune into the podcast and I love it. But at times you're in the coffee shop and you're kid and you're just like, I just want to eat me scone. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the past couple of years I've sort of not. It's still at a nice point where I appreciate it and I'm happy to have a photo with someone like in Richmond Park just the other day. You sort of people come and recognise you, but the difficult one with when you're going around Richmond Park say is that like there'll be people that know who you are and then try and race you or whatever, and I'm doing a very strict like zone 2. I'm not gonna ride any harder, so I was going around Richmond Park the other day like just steady, like the same pace the whole way around. But that means that the guys that see me they'll overtake me on the hills, but I'm riding the same pace. I'm easily going to catch them on all the other segments. But for them, it feels like that they think I'm racing them, but I'm not. I'm just riding the same pace the whole way around. And so it was so funny the other day. They thought I was racing them, but I ended up saying to them like, I'm not racing you. I'm just here. I'm just riding zone 2, mate.
But you know what? They go back to the pub and they tell their mates that story. It won't be the way it is. Like, I raced Fred Wright there. I dropped him. He's shy.
Yeah, but I don't mind that. I think that's good. I think that's part of this. But that's what's great about cycling is you can be so close to. You get so like football. You don't have it where you can speak to and interact with the pros that you see racing. I do find it's harder at things like rouleur when I've got a mix of fans of cycling and also sort of friends, like family friends of people like that are in London that I want to speak to, and you kind of almost get stuck speaking to someone else when actually you'd rather have spoken to your family friend or whatever. So sometimes things like that roulette, it's great to do, but you couldn't do them all the time because it's socially quite a draining experience because you've got to be on top form for everyone really.
The bunch is going to be a bit different next year, eh? Like Sagan, Thibaut Pinot, Greg Van Avermaet. There's a little bit of a change into the guard gone. All those guys retiring.
Yeah, I was thinking that like you think that the names that are not going to be there, those are the kind of guys that also would say things if they saw something's going wrong. I think of like Sagan, sort of he was probably more of like a patron of the peloton, and we're kind of losing that now. I think I don't know who. I guess there's still a few older guys, but it's not. Yeah, it's a new generation, isn't it?
But like, are you losing it, or is it like? I'm not putting this on your shoulders, but I remember even playing football, and you go from being the young guy to the experienced guy very fast. Like, you're not the newcomer now. You're a legit world tour rider now. Is it on your shoulders and your generation to step up a little bit more and kind of the next Patreon's gonna come from your generation?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, a good way of putting it, because it's like, I'd say it's going to be. I think that I still feel like I'm a new rider, like, but I've been doing this. I'm going into my 5th year of being a pro, which is definitely experienced, and it's just about stepping up to it. But I think it's a difficult thing to do to, and not a lot of guys actually. I would say actually do that, become those sort of captains, those leaders. They kind of almost keep themselves to themselves. But the ones that do that, that's a successful. I aspire to be able to lead in that sort of way. I think rather than just going through the motions like like other people. Not that that's the wrong thing to do, but it's it's a different.
It is kind of cool because
approaches.
It's a competitive sport, and you see a lot of people that come and they get one contract, and that never works out for them. They drop down a level, and then they just disappear. So you've obviously made it stick. You got that one contract, which turned into another contract. Now you're in your 5th or going into your 6th year. You're a legit world tour rider. So it is kind of cool to be able to reach a hand down and help others up and say, hey, you know that thing you done just there? You tried to move up on the grass and you almost took everyone out. It didn't go that bad. We've seen how it can go bad the odd time.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good example though. Like, I think it's weird that that's the role that I'm gonna sort of fall into. But I was speaking to Mate, and he's someone that he was doing it quite young. He would have been my age when I first joined the team and roomed with him on the first training camp and learned a lot from him, like talked to him a lot and sort of absorbed as much information from him as I could. And I think, I can do the same. I'm in a position now where I can do the same. But still, it's still great because there's still enough older riders that you can still have. I still have riders to learn from. I still have to learn from the sports directors, whatever. But I still have enough experience that I can pass it on.
Mate's interview on the Tour de France when he won a stage this year, this is what it means.
Yeah.
That was like one of the highlights of the season.
Oh, no, it was. But that's the thing as well with cycling. It's like you remember things like that as well. Like there's importance in how you present yourself, and like Mate's just won so many fans from that interview. It's unbelievable. And those fans might not necessarily know how many stages of the Tour he's won, but they'll just love him for the way he spoke about one of his victories.
But I think this is why we're in a really cool era with cycling now, because we're getting so many more guys like you who are either starting their own podcasts or jumping on guesting podcasts or starting vlogs. And we're actually getting to know the riders. Like even Evan Nepal now with his own vlog. I didn't really like Evan Nepal before that vlog, I have to say, for no reason, because that's just me being an arsehole. I never met the guy, never talked to the guy. But I just looked at him and said, he looks like an arrogant little prick. And I watched the vlog and I was like, I actually think he's a bit of a dude. I like this
Yeah.
guy. And it totally changed my opinion of him just off the back of that vlog. So I think we're in this purple patch now where we're really getting to know riders, and it's helping the sport a lot because I'm invested in their journey now. Like I watch, like I had you in my fantasy Tour de France team this year. You kind of fucked me over a few times, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But you know what I mean? Like I was rooting for you because you had me,
Oh no,
because you've been on the podcast, and you know, I feel like I know you.
yeah, but that's so important, and I kind of just in the past 2 years, I see the value in that, and I see what coming on podcasts, or maybe in the future creating my own podcast or whatever, that people being able to relate to you and to sort of listen to your story and listen to and just know how you are as a person makes it, because ultimately I've only won one bike race, but I've kind
It was
of
a humdinger.
Yeah, it was, but I haven't been maybe as quite as successful as I wanted to be yet, but I still got quite I feel like I've amassed a good amount of people that spend their time cheering me on, getting into breakaways or in the classics or whatever. Like I've built up a nice fan base from just basically just speaking what's on my mind in interviews, and yeah, I think that's as a result of people relating to me. I guess I don't know why it is, but yeah.
Before we move on from all the retirements, Nathan Van Hooydonk's one and his heart condition. Is there any whispers in the peloton? What's going on with this heart stuff? Obviously, Sonny Colbrelli, teammate of yours a couple of years ago. I've been watching sport for my whole life, and it's like footballers are dropping, cyclists are dropping. Like there's something weird going on. I don't know if it's post-COVID vaccines, if it's even related to that. I don't know. Is there any whispers in the bunch as to what's going on?
I'm really not sure whether it's. I've got no idea whether it's COVID related or not. I just know personally. There's a great sort of charity in the UK that called Cardiac Risk in the Young, and they test sportsmen or young sports people to make sure that they don't have any underlying heart conditions that could just surprise them from doing sport in the future. And I think it's so I at the age of sort of 16 I did various tests and got the all clear, and I wonder if I don't know. So for me, I trust that my heart's healthy, and touch wood, nothing's gonna happen from a personal experience, but I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea what this. I wonder whether it's just things that have been undiagnosed, or
No one's too alarmed with it. There's not much talk about it.
I think there's definitely going to be more tests, more sort of heart related tests. Like we every year you're on training camp doing. It's not like I think it's not like you don't do the tests basically, but
yeah, I had a weird one this year.
I don't know if they really know what it is.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As we pedal closer to the end of another year, I can't help but reflect on the highs and lows that come along with it. Whether it's the excitement of the holiday season or navigating the occasional winter blues, it can be a bit of a roller coaster. I've been thinking about how this time of year can be a little bit overwhelming, dealing with the stress and changes that accompany it all. Whether you've ever dipped your toes into therapy or not, let's chat about the bigger picture, benefits, and a language we can all relate to. Think of it as a toolkit for life, a bit of space where you can learn the ropes of positive coping skills, some time for self-reflection, and even somewhere where you can learn how to set those critical boundaries in your life. If you're contemplating the therapy journey, why not give BetterHelp a spin? This is therapy that's entirely online, crafted for ultimate convenience, flexibility, and tailored to your schedule. Just a quick questionnaire to match you with a licensed therapist, and the freedom to switch things up at no extra cost anytime. It's therapy on your terms, and I've got to say, the convenience is a total game changer. So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/roadman today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/roadman. The details are in the description below.
I had one this year. I went done a long day, a gravel day. I was trying to do one of those fastest known times, and I had like 12-hour ride, and then it finished up a sticky enough climb, like a 10-minute climb. I was with one of my buddies, and we went full gas over the last climb. And my heart rate, my Garmin was actually dying, so I was in that power saver mode where you can only see it on and off. So I knew I went full, like I was out of breath at the top. Then it was a long descent, and I still felt out of breath on the descent. And I was like, oh, that feels weird. Why haven't I recovered? And then we'd like 5K into town, and I still felt really weird, like I was still doing a max effort. And then finished the ride like 10 minutes later or whatever, press save, and it's like new max heart rate detected 229. And I was like, okay,
Jesus.
that's not fucking good. And then I was like, maybe that's just a mistake or whatever. So I stopped the file, restarted a new file so I could see what the heart rate was. And it was still like 200 just standing there. And my max is like 190. And I was like, okay, this is not good. So I sat in like a kebab shop in like the arse end of nowhere, and I was thinking, this is where the story ends. This is it. And I went, got cardiac tests and everything the next day, and the doctor was like, nah, look, there's nothing wrong. Like, your heart's perfect. He had me going full gas on the treadmill in a pair of jeans and stuff, which was more chafing issues than that. And he's just like, no, you're grand. It was some sort of viral infection mixed with dehydration, but it scared the shit out of me because I was in that waiting room waiting for them results.
Scary stuff, isn't it? Because
looking back in the season,
when I was 16, they actually had to like stop. I had like 2 months almost off, just so they double check the results I did, because I did a similar thing. You know, like you do like a max test, and basically they didn't want me to train until they got, you know, the all clear. But I remember being really nervous, like really, like, could this be?
Because like, even, you know, for you obviously it's your livelihood. For me, it's not my livelihood cycling, but I still love the cycling, and it's a part of my identity. But I was in the waiting room and everything's going through your head, and I was like, okay, maybe I'd still be happy if I couldn't cycle, but I won't be able to cycle, I won't be able to run, I won't be able to go to the gym, I won't be able to play five-a-side with the lads, I won't be able to.
Exactly.
It's a big game changer.
Yeah, no, it's really scary stuff, and I wonder why there's been more, whether it's people training more, like, I don't know, where people are putting more effort in, you know, more altitude camps, more just overall load that I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I can only guess. So yeah, it's just scary.
Looking back, another top 10 in Flanders. I heard a whisper you done 350 watts normalized for 7 hours. Any truth in that?
Something like that, yeah. It was like on from the start. We even planned. It was quite cool actually. The sports directors were like, it's really nice when they come in with a slightly different plan to normal, and they said, right guys, we're just gonna. There's a slight chance of crosswinds in the first 30k. Bearing in mind it's a 200.
Is that why the break didn't go this year?
80k race. Bear in mind it was a 280k race. It's like, okay, there's a slight chance of crosswinds. Definitely Van der Poel and Van Aert, some of the other big guys, they're going to be sat at the back. Let's just twat it and see what happens. Whether that was the best strategy or not, I think there was, you know, Van der Poel was at the back and had to spend some energy, I think. So, yeah, but that basically meant that the break didn't go till the first cobble sector. I remember it, and then you're almost on the Quermont the first time. So it was really, pretty.
Because I flicked on late, and I was like, why is the break not gone? And then I was like, because it was 2 hours or more, and the break still hadn't gone. And I think was it the fastest ever edition of Tour of Flanders?
Yeah, something like that. But that's just because of the way. Basically, it's nowadays. You know, when you got the likes of Pogacar in the race, everyone's trying to preempt the final, trying to take advantage of having someone in the move to, you know, get into the final in ahead of the top guys. You know, the top three guys, and that was our strategy basically. And in the end, it might have been better. It would have been good if we actually had someone in that very, very early move, because normally people you're like, oh, don't bother, but I then came across to that after still with, you know, 100k to go or so in like a pretty strong group. And I remember Pedersen had a teammate in that original break that was really helpful. Same with Asgreen. So it would have been, I'm still kind of waiting to like sit down. I'll do it before I race Flanders next year, but sit down, watch it, and see where I went wrong. Because there's this. You can always pick things out, which is what's so great about these races.
But like, do you almost have to get creative now to beat those? Like we call them the superhero X-Men. Like,
Yeah,
we're talking about like Pogacar, Wout, and MVP. Do you need to come up with a creative strategy?
yeah, I think so, and I think we I felt like I nailed it this year. Kind of ultimately, I almost thought about them too much, and I was really impressed with how Pedersen rode it. Like he rode, he attacked from the group we were in instead of waiting for them to come to us, and that was, and he I think that's the next sort of change in. Is I was thinking about still just getting a result in the race because I knew that they were coming, rather than actually, okay, how do we win this race? I'd almost, with say 50k to go, when you're doing the Quail at the Paterberg for the last time, or however long to go that is, 40k to go, you're coming into it.
Yeah, 40, 50k.
I'm there thinking, okay, they're going to come to us. How do I get a good result? Instead of Pedersen was in his head like, no, I'm still going to try and win this race. So he then, he attacked, and Pogacar only just caught him on the top of the Clermont, I think.
But I guess that's just a box ticking exercise. Like for you now, you've had 2 top 10s in Tour of Flanders the last 2 years. If you're in the break next year, your head's not going to be as much in the frame of mind as, if I get top 10, this is a great result. You're going to be, top 10, I've done that twice. I'm better off going for broke and trying to win this race and then coming nowhere.
Go broke, yeah. And I think that's what, hopefully will come next year. It's just each year I've gained confidence in how I race and what I want from the races. And I think, I hope that's what I'm hoping will lead to sort of some big results next year. But when you're racing these guys, it's not easy to win these races. But I'm sure, it's all it takes is. That's why I love Roubaix. All it takes is so there's other factors involved. Flanders is a bit more about the legs at the very end, but with Roubaix, when you got randomness thrown in there, it's really that's where there could be a big opportunity in the next few years that I'm doing. Well, I'm going to be doing it for the next 10 years, so I'm sure there'll be an opportunity in the 10 tries of Roubaix.
Go full Matt Heyman on it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be happy to get to the end of my career with just one nationals and I've won Roubaix. That would be, that'd be fine.
But you're super good at position into climbs. That's why I think Flanders suits you really well. The technical just off our position, which unless anyone's ever done it, I don't think you can explain how terrifying and dangerous and skilled that is to get into position for these key sections. But you seem to be able to pull that off really, really well, which is actually quite a nice segue to your one and only race victory, British Nationals, because it was a technical course. And I remember it was Simon Carr at one point absolutely smashed the climb, basically dropped the entire field. But you just have a knack of popping up in the right place at the right time. Obviously, you have the legs as well, but you're very good at holding that position.
Yeah, I think Mate will tell me that I've still got more to improve in the old classics positioning, but he is the master at doing that. So I think I'll take that criticism. But in terms of like picking out moves and stuff, I feel like that's one of my strongest traits. I kind of almost know. I know now what I've got more of an understanding of myself and what it takes to, and how it's almost like understanding how knackered everyone else is. Like, and trusting that because you're knackered, so everyone else should be as well, and then it's a good time to attack. That's the kind of sort of simplest way of describing it, I guess. It's kind of. Did you have
a good read on how knackered James Knox and Stevie Williams were in the Nationals?
Yeah, there was one point where it was the longer, steeper climb just at the very top. I sort of put a dig in. I was able to put a dig in over the top of that one, and I knew then, I was like, okay, if I can do that, then I should, I sort of telling myself not to panic, but I should be able to win this. Like I felt fairly confident, but no, it was such a good race. It was So hard though. I think that was probably the hardest race. One of the hardest races I've done, just because of the nature of the course. And nationals, you always just smash the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I've seen Knox's power data. He was like, I think 5.4 or 5.5 watts per kilogram normalized for the entire race for over 5 hours.
Yeah, I dropped my chain and knocked my magnet off, so I lost power for the whole thing, and it was so gutting because it was probably one of the best files I would have ever had.
But you went early in the finish as well. Like, you went super early because you went on that second last climb, that kind of 45-minute kicker or 45-second kicker.
Yeah, well, the thing is with Stevie and Noxie are really good mates. Like, I'm good friends with both of them, but they're such good mates and were playing the mate card a little bit, and I sort of knew that they would, in that almost as if they were both teammates. They're not teammates, but they were riding like they were teammates. And I knew Stevie, one of them was going to have a go on that climb, and like I said from the other one of the times, I knew I was able to get a bit of a gap over the top of them attacking before, so I thought, oh, this is the moment, and went for it. And I kind of felt like on that downhill section before the last climb, there's, if I'm tucked in a heavier rider, even if they're chopping off, there's no benefit. They're not going to be going any faster than I was. So yeah, it was just about the right move in the end.
And when I seen you in the big ring up it, I was like, means business. The boys are in the little ring spinning away up it.
I think it's why it suits me, is that none of the efforts we were doing were that, like, I don't know, it wasn't like the watts per kilo at that moment were that high, but it's being able to just do continuous short punchy efforts that are like, I don't know how many were in that race, probably hundreds, but they all add up, and if you can soak them all up and still keep being able to do them, then you're in a good place.
Is it a strange race though the week before the tour? Because I remember racing nationals and Philip Duignan, who was riding for Sky then, coming back to race the Irish nationals and crashing in the nationals and missing the tour. Like, is that in the back of your mind to be risk off?
Yeah, I think, like, looking at the season now, I would, and looking at how, like, obviously I'm so glad I won nationals. Like, it was such a special day. But in terms of tour prep, that was the worst nationals to do. Like, I started the tour in the Basque Country, and I just wasn't quite fresh enough. It was such a hard race. It takes longer than you expect to recover from. You think, oh, the tour's next week, it's fine. But you're traveling to the tour. I was traveling to the tour not that many days after nationals, and it's a big bit of load to just have right before you do a grand tour. So, looking at how the tour went last year and this year, okay, the courses were different situations. The way it was raced was slightly different, but I definitely started the tour this year not as fresh. So that's.
Would you consider skipping nationals
next year? What's that?
Would you consider skipping nationals? Like, the Galibier is stage 4, I think, this year. So we're racing early this year.
That's what I mean. I think, that's a question with the team and to work out, because it is. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think my personal opinion is that everyone should race nationals, like all countries, that there should be a thing. There should be like rules where everyone races nationals. I think like it's important for the sport that, and like the sport in your home country, that you do the nationals. Like, I think it's a bit stupid that people skip it, because I think it kind of goes against what, like, the way I think it should be, but it's not ideal, but I don't think.
Excuse the short interruption, but I wanted to find a way to bring our little community together, to problem solve, to share training advice, and to support each other in what can sometimes be a lonely road as we all chase health, happiness, and longevity through cycling. To facilitate this, I've set up a Discord channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. It doesn't cost anything to join. It's totally free. Plus, I'm also picking out random winners for spot prizes inside the Discord channel. If you'd like to join it, click on the link down below. It's kind of cool as well as a fan watching your national champ at the highest level. Like, the British fans are going to get such a kick out of seeing you next year. at the front of the Tour of Flanders wearing the British Champs jersey. Like, that's just cool to watch.
Yeah, I kind of almost forget you forget about that bit until you like it's so that's like the best bit of nationals. It's just every day being able to put on a stripy jersey. It's like just today putting on, it's maybe they're a little bit tighter than they were in the last race of the season now, but no, it's great. It's really nice.
What you need to do is get two different sizes: off-season size and an on-season size.
Yeah, I've not put on too many kilos, but it's enough to notice. To think, why did I go for a small? Why didn't I go for a medium in these long sleeves? In these long sleeve jerseys.
How extra special was the win in nationals, given how the Tour de Suisse went, with obviously the tragic loss of your friend Gino?
Yeah, it's I'm happy mention it. Happy to talk about it, mention it, just because I feel like it's important, to talk about these things, because it's not something that anyone really knows how to deal with. And I certainly know that when the moment finding out about it that whole week before nationals was I was sort of questioning why I was doing what I was doing. I kind of had very little motivation. I think part of it is because I was so focused on the tour. You're so like drilled. Training is everything. You're really like more focused than ever on eating and getting the most out of yourself. And then something like that happens, and I think the reaction is you think about yourself and you go, what am I doing? Like, why? What's the? It basically just puts everything into perspective, and I really, that was one of the hardest weeks of my life. I don't know what I can't imagine how his family, his girlfriend especially, like it's awful. But with that, there is that extra. Matteo was talking about it. You've got that. You kind of lost that motivation and perspective, but then you also gain. You just sort of. You gain a bit of freedom in that. It doesn't really matter. We're just enjoying riding our bikes. Like, it's not. Let's just enjoy it for Gino, because that's what he unfortunately can't do anymore. And I think it certainly meant that nationals, I raced it with more freedom, and I wasn't bothered that much about winning. I kind of ultimately, it doesn't matter. I'm just there enjoying racing my bike, and that's kind of the most important thing about what we do, I guess.
We had another, obviously, on that, like, condolences to you and all the lads who knew him. We had another tragic accident here in Ireland last year as well, roughly around the same time. And it was a prominent female cyclist in the Irish community, and out on a training ride, and she got hit head on with a car, and she didn't make it either. She passed away on the scene. And I know for me, like, in the aftermath of that, it was really hard to process it, like, because it's just when I went away from kind of chasing the pro dream, it's dangerous. Like, when you're doing these races and you're descending at 100k an hour, you're following wheels, you're taking risks, you're cutting blind corners. I was able to kind of segment that and say to myself, okay, that's dangerous. But what you do now, like racing locally, doing group rides, that's pretty safe. And then when she got killed, it was like, I almost didn't know how to process that, because I was like, I thought what I do now is safe.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's still, actually, even talking about it, it's still pretty hard to figure out how to compartmentalize that.
Yeah, I think that's even more. I think the nature of Gino's crash was so particularly unlucky. Like there were reasons why just where he crashed. I don't want to talk about it, but when, like you said, when it happens on a training ride, which is the day-to-day stuff, it's not, it certainly makes it I can't imagine. It's how to. It's yeah. It's definitely a lot to. Yeah, no. I mean, no one really knows how to talk about these things, but it's always
that's it. It's saying words out loud, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't know what to say, like.
No, but I prefer the approach of saying words out loud rather than keeping everything in or whatever. It was handy actually. When I found out my dad randomly had just come up to stay just up here in Manchester, and so I had people around me that I could come to terms with it rather than just being on my own, because I think it would have been real tricky if I was just on my own with no one to talk to. Obviously the team were helpful talking, but it's that person to person conversation is helpful as well.
And I don't even know if there's an answer to this one. There's me and a good buddy of mine had often debated. Came up riding together for years, and we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years a couple of just really tragic crashes. A friend of ours hit from behind and he couldn't ride again. Obviously, Gabby, who I mentioned, tragically passed away. You look at Gino, the same fate. And it's like, I love cycling and I get so much out of cycling. And I encourage everyone that comes into my life, if they haven't tried cycling, to cycle. Some of my best mates are cyclists. Some of my fondest memories are cyclists and races. And then I just wonder, like, is the risk to reward worth it? Like, is what we do just so dangerous that these things are inevitable and we somehow just bury our head in the sand to the dangers of this sport?
I mean, I think, like I said, in Gino's case, let's face it, it was, particularly unbelievably unlucky. Whereas with drivers and the nature of the roads, and I think with things happening on training rides and out on the roads, not necessarily races, I think there is more awareness to be had, because I just know that drivers have got worse since I've now.
Did it get better when you have the national champs kit on?
Yeah, well, not they don't know. They don't give a shit who the national champs is. And I think like cars are getting bigger. Like cars, the standard car people buy nowadays is an SUV, and there's less space on the roads for them to overtake. Like there's just, and it's the relationship between cars and drivers. Like it's just, I don't know.
People are oblivious though.
Really
I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped at the traffic lights with an SUV, and like I wasn't even aggro. I had my headphones in. I was listening to Coldplay or something like that. It's pretty chilled out here. Like I wasn't listening to gangster rap and rolling up on this guy. Rolled up, tapped on the window, and he was a nice enough middle-aged dude. And I was like, "Bro, you're 1 millimeter away from killing me there. Like you passed me at 160 kilometers an hour, and you missed me by a millimeter." I was like, "That was game over." And he was just like totally apologetic and had no idea. He was just in his own dream world, like oblivious to the consequences of that weapon he's driving.
I've had a few like that recently, where you say something and they actually don't realise that they've passed you close, and it's and that's almost worse. Like I'd rather they were angry with me or like get off the road rather than I didn't even know I was close to you. Like that's a bit more scary. So I think it's
I used to look at people in high vis tops and I'd be like, oh, what a geek. Look at him in his high vis out training on his lights. No, but you know what? I'm designing like a Roadman orange jersey at the moment for just some extra visibility.
Yeah, nice. I now make sure I got a light on my back at the back of the bike and stuff, just because, you just got to be that extra careful just because of drivers. It's just such a, I don't know. I kind of don't understand it half the time. I think because as a pro cyclist, you live a different life to what other people's lives are. Like you have more time on your hands. You're just doing a 4-hour training ride. But on a day-to-day, the driver, like I don't understand why people get so angry. Like All
right, so here's my hot take on it. So, right, when I was playing football, and you're obviously in the UK, big football culture, you have a shit week in college, your girlfriend's cheated on you, your parents or your dad's beating you around the place, right? You've had the worst week of your life. Yeah. You play a football match on a Saturday. Whose fault is it? It's the referee's fault. No matter what happened to you that week, it's the referee's fault. Cyclists are becoming the new referee. It's like, oh, my pound doesn't buy me as much anymore. Inflation is killing me. I can't get a job. Government's fucking me over. it's the cyclist's fault. The traffic is shit. It's the cyclist's fault. It's the cyclist's fault. And this rage just seems to be building up that's totally irrational.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's always, that anger is most of the time irrational. And the best way to respond to that is always not to rise to that sort of irrational. Because if you get angry as well, it's kind of like what you're both losing.
Yeah, it ruins your ride as well, doesn't it? Like you're just going around with big tick head on you for the rest of the day.
I think my dad has always said, like, if you can somehow flip it and make them smile, just by being like, oh, this is stupid or whatever, then that's the way to win them over. But it's not easy. It's definitely, I'd say it's more dangerous now than ever to just ride on the road. I
think that's how you know you're getting old, Fred.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I'm just less reckless. Nah, I'm only 24. I still feel like I've got a few screws loose.
Finishing up, looking back in the season now and having the benefit of a bit of an off season and I'm sure a couple of beers to give you some perspective, what do you think you could have done better?
Oh, that's a good question. What could I have done better?
Or basically even another way to reframe it, like what lessons will you take from last season that you're going to bring into and change this season? I
think there's a few things. It's kind of, I need to, it's structuring a program out of and really focusing on what I want rather than, this is, a big thing I've been, trying to sort of have a chat with the team, have a chat with my coach and work out. It's like, right, what, rather than, okay, the past few years where it's been like, I'll get really fit, I'll get race ready, and then I'll race and hold on to the form and see where that gets me. It's focusing more on actually having a proper, this is where I'm going to peak, or this is where, because I think, a lot of the time you end up, like before the tour, I'm training at altitude, but there's no, I messed it up and I peaked probably at nationals where I should have wanted to peak a little bit later, or in the classics. I think it's being more confident in not just going, right, we'll train, so I'm ready to race, and then race. It's like almost accept in some races that you're not going to go as well, and use and like build like have it's. I think the more years you do, the more confidence you have in how you approach things. And previously, I've gone in with the mindset of, if I'm feeling good on the bike, then I can just keep racing until I don't feel good on the bike anymore.
Is it merely a case that you were, I don't want to say insecure, but you were new and coming up and you feel like you need to prove your worth every single race rather than being able to go, okay, 90% of these races don't matter a fuck to me, I'm just training, but these 10% of races really, really matter to me.
Yeah, it's having that approach to things. And I think it's because the Olympics are next year, I really want to, it's important. Like that will, for me, okay, it's not team related, but that will be the most important race of the year. So it's doing more to ensure that that's when I'm at my peak, rather than, obviously it's going to be difficult if they want me to do the Tour de France or whatever, but whether that means, how we go into the Tour, or rather than just going into the Tour in the best way possible, it might be a case of actually starting out a little bit worse, build into it so that the Olympics are better. I just think, like last year, the first race of the season in Valencia, I was you can be too keen and desperate for it, and that was not even March, and it's a long season. You really have to make sure when I'm flying, I can really use that. Those moments.
Can you win the Olympics?
I don't know. I'd love to. That'd be that's kind of, as a kid growing up on the track, I always wanted to follow my track dreams. I guess it's because as being part of British cycling, that's just the way things are. And you want to be a team pursuiter. You want to win a gold medal on the track. The reality is now that's not going to happen on the track, but why can't it happen on the road? So, yeah.
Spoiler alert, Fred, you absolutely can win the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I think I can. It's going to be hard, but I think I can. But that's again what I need to work on is that confidence thing. It's like being in races and being like, no, I can do this. I'm not going to worry about what's going on around me. Stick to the plan, what I'm doing, and yeah, that's when it will come.
You heard it here, folks. Stick your house on Fred Wright for the Olympic Road Race Championships. Fred, thanks for taking the time to chat.
Well, I got to get in the team first, but I think I should be all right.
I think if you enjoyed that episode, please press here for another conversation that I know you're going to love. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your club mates.